Anchor price update. Let's get into it. So Chris, today we are going to be taking a look at the anchor price. We'll have a look at the 1 day chart, the 4-hour chart, and the 1 hour chart. We'll compare these charts and see if there is any positive news for a rebound to the upside, or whether or not we have to have a deeper correction. So as we get into this, guys, if you do find this video useful and informative, hit the like button. We both really do appreciate it. And of course, if you want to know more about those hidden gems, learn about new cryptocurrencies, and potentially make some money, then why not consider subscribing to the channel? By subscribing, you will be kept well up to date with everything we do here at Cheeky Crypto. It is free and you will stay well up to date. So why not? Right, Chris, anything else you'd like to add before we jump down to the charts and kind of review what's going on here with the anchor price?
Yeah, so there was a few comments in the Telegram group and on Twitter just around people worrying about price, particularly on Harmony One, which obviously we dropped the video already. But Anchor was another one that was being sort of called out. So we thought it was appropriate to basically try to put everybody's minds back at ease. Because there seems to be a lot of people overreacting to something that's happening across the whole market, it would appear, over this bank holiday weekend, which is just normal, right? But do let us know in the comments below, what do you think, the price prediction is going to be for Anchor come the peak of the bull run? Really interested to know.
Fantastic. Right, with that said, let's jump down to the charts and take a look at what's going on here.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right then, so this is Anchor to the USDT. This is the daily chart where we start, and obviously we are using Binance as our data source. Now, as I just scroll out, as a quick thing I want to kind of call out here is from the sort of low level down here towards the end. If I actually could scoot this over a moment, I'm just going to move it over to the 1st of January here. So since the start of January this year, Chris, we've already seen 2,134% gains. Then we've had a healthy correction come from there. So after such significant rallies to the upside in such a short space of time, it's no wonder that the market does have to cool off. And that's kind of what we've seen here. And it's indicated within this Fibonacci retracement tool. So in this, we actually have selected this low level down here of the 21st of March. And we had a rally up to the up top here at the 28th of March, okay? And that actually topped in at 21.7 cent for the Anchor token. And from there, once you find the top, you have to expect the market to potentially cool off and get corrected, because there's only so much time you can spend at the top here being overbought. You have to kind of have your RSI, your relative strength index, corrected, and you do have to correct those really high volumes. It's not sustainable to expect that to continue. But it doesn't mean that we're entering a bear market or anything like that. And ultimately, you're still going to see, at least in my opinion, more gains left, as this bull market, Chris, has barely even started at this point, and there's huge potential still here. We've seen significant gains, yes, but you'll be foolish if you think you can able to sell the top every single time. Ultimately, the top is not something that you're going to see happen all that often. You're never going to time it perfectly. You're better off actually waiting for a correction and to predict where you're likely to going to hit. For example, coming in at the 786 here was an indication if you didn't pass that level, you were going to come down again lower. So that would have been a good sell signal. And of course, you would have seen this happen, you would have rode it down, found the bottom, and then wait for it to come back to this area here and sell off again. Now, one thing that we are expecting was obviously to hit those retracement areas. And they come in at 618, 50%, or the 382. Okay, and ultimately, those are the three most common areas for retracements. That isn't to say that, you might see that red area get hit occasionally, which is the 23.6, but that happens on rare occasions, as does the 702, and sometimes even just the 786. These areas are exceptions, but normally speaking, we see these three 9 times out of 10. So we have to expect to see at least one of those, and sometimes 2 or even all 3 of them. And in the case of Anchor so far, we have seen only that 618 get hit. We haven't actually come down to that 50% level yet. We got close over here with this particular candle, but that didn't really sustain it very long, and we went right back up. We also tested the 786 before pulling back down into this mid-range here. But again, we haven't actually touched the line of a 50% retracement. So things are looking pretty healthy. We are fighting the resistance here at the 618 area, but that's not too bad either. The volumes have come down quite significantly as well on this daily chart. So the volumes are nice and low. That's going to help protect those prices. Obviously, the volumes were quite high when we had the initial kind of corrections over here, and they have most recently stabilized. So that's a good sign. Now, the averages are way off from where our candles are at the moment on this daily chart, but I imagine as we get into those lower levels, we'll see how they all stack up. Now, the RSI, Chris, this is currently at about if I just get this off there, 66 on the chart here. Okay, so that's it's a pretty good spot. It's not the best in the world, but it's not longer overbought, which is the key message here. We see all of this stuff up here above the purple zone. This is overbought, which means the token can't sustain being up here for too long, and it does have to come back down into this purple section. By coming down here, you know that you're in a more comfortable spot, but obviously there's a huge amount of space to the downside. So I would be cautious on this daily chart at the moment, but we are in a bull market and not a bear market, so we could rally and see some pretty significant rallies from this position still, although we will become overbought very quickly. Now, if we pull this down, Chris, into our 4-hourly chart, we'll just see if this confirms a lot of what we're seeing in the daily. Here we can see those averages are moving nicely up with our candles. And we can see the 50 moving average is actually acting as a bit of maybe resistance at this point. The 100 moving average is quite far below the candles, as is the 200 moving average. But the candles are fighting against that 618 area here. We're trying to fight our way back in. And the RSI is quite low, guys, which is a good sign for giving us a lot of momentum to the upside and to pierce into that 618 area. So the less concerning. It's definitely a polar opposite of what we see from the relative strength index on the daily. So that's interesting. Now, the volumes are pretty much insignificant, Chris. They're tiny volumes, and I think this is going to change once the rest of the market picks up, as you were indicating earlier. Ultimately, the volumes are really low, so we're not going to see huge price swings at this point. But with that being said, I think once the market decides to pick up again, we're going to start seeing this anchor token move once again into the upside. So for now, the volume can stay nice and low whilst we're correcting this RSI, and we're not going to do too much damage to that price. It's potentially just going to trade sideways around that 618 area. If we go ahead, Chris, and pull this into our 1-hour chart, this shows us actually at the point of coming towards that 50% retracement zone, we were oversold. So being oversold indicates there's only one place left to go, guys, and that's going to go back to the upside, which we saw here. Now, we had a swing up here to about 48 on the RSI from an area of 27. So anything below 30 is oversold, and we took that and we moved it up to the mid-range of the RSI. But we didn't have a huge price discovery on that note. Just people were buying up that sweet fear, Chris. There was blood in the streets, and some traders saw an opportunity, so they took advantage. Wouldn't you do the same?
Yeah, definitely, Nick. You know me. Like, those are my favorite days.
Absolutely. So you can see exactly what happened there. So I wouldn't be concerned about this. This is just people were a little bit scared of the price tanking much lower than it currently was, and they maybe wanted to protect themselves. But in doing so, if they were selling down at this bottom area here when you're selling when it was oversold, it wasn't exactly the best thing to be doing. In fact, you potentially should have just been waiting for the correction, which would have come hours later. So at the moment, this RSI is at about 45, not too dissimilar to that of the 4-hourly, but definitely not in line with what the daily chart is showing us. So therefore, we can see this thing potentially rising in value even more, but only if that volume kicks in. We are, of course, at the moment, Chris, below average on this daily chart. The 50, the 100, and the 200 moving averages are higher than the candles at the moment. So there's only going to be so long that that's sustainable for, and eventually we'll have to end up pushing above those moving averages. And of course, we're fighting that 618 on this hourly chart, and we can see just how much that fight is taking place. It's only a matter of time, Chris, in my opinion, before the anchor token does rise up in this hourly chart on this RSI with some decent volume and breaks into and above those, or into the 618 and above those averages. So I'm not concerned looking at the hourly chart. I'm not concerned looking at the 4-hourly chart. But let's go ahead and go back to our daily. And from our daily, we are not overbought, but we are high, right? Which is the opposite of what the 4-hourly and the hourly is telling us. That means that we're more than likely going to raise back up into the overbought area on the daily chart once we get that volume kicking in. we might end up just trading sideways here, but eventually it will go back up, unless, of course, there's another macro event that pulls this RSI a little bit lower. Now, I don't think that's necessarily the case because I am not seeing anything in the immediate future on the 4-hourly or the hourly that would indicate to me that we're likely to touch that 50% retracement. If anything, we're going to be trying to push into the 618 area, and potentially we'll end up trying to trading sideways between the 618 and the 702 until we can get things a little bit deeper corrected on this RSI on the daily. That would be the ideal situation, but the volume is going to be the driver here. And I think, Chris, as you're saying, the whole entire market being a little bit off this bank holiday weekend, we will start seeing that volume increase after. So therefore, maybe there's a couple of days where there's opportunities here to acquire more. But other than that, I think maybe this correction might be coming to an end sooner rather than later. Now, as a piece of analysis here, it's always worth kind of saying that we actually had a rally to the upside that took 8 days. And if we take a look at how long our bearish market or correction has been, it's been going for 7 days. So we could see this thing potentially going maybe for a bit longer. I would probably say 10 days is going to be a nice spot to see what happens there. So time's always the hardest thing to gauge here. 8 days up. How many days does it take to go sideways to correct from our upside swing? We'll have to pay close attention there to see what happens. Now, the future of this token, though, is something that I still think is incredibly bright, Chris. And I think you agree with me. We still think there's a $1 anchor token on the cards this year in this bull run. And my opinion on that hasn't changed. That still represents 528% gains on the table here. So huge potential still sits here with the anchor token. And I think this is going to be a phenomenal rally during 2021 for Anchor and the Anchor token and everything that they're trying to achieve with their real world use case. I think this project has longevity to it, and I definitely wouldn't be selling under these conditions. And I'm hoping that this is reassuring some of you, because these kind of healthy corrections are to be expected within the crypto space. And so far, we can say that we've seen a maximum swing of 48%. And we often say between 30 and 50 is to be expected. So nothing here is actually concerning us at the moment. But Chris, is there anything else that you would like to add before we potentially sign off on this video?
Yeah, I mean, to start off with, weekends can be up or they can be down, and it's one extreme to the next. With it being a bank holiday weekend, for me, that probably plays a bit of a part of it. But you know how confident I am. I mean, this is one of the projects that I selected as part of my free to watch for April. I think it's going to do particularly well. So if you haven't seen that video, do check it out. Nick's picked 3 projects that he's looked at. I picked 3 that I've looked at that I think are going to do really well. But this is one of them. I expect it to do well. I think this is just a blip for the entire market. And it's what we've been talking about, throughout December 2020 in the lead to 2021. This was all to be expected, as you mentioned, Nick.
Fantastic. So hopefully, guys, you have found this useful and informative. If you have, hit that like button. We both really do appreciate that. And of course, if you want to know more about those hidden gems, new cryptocurrencies, and potentially make some money online, then why not consider subscribing to the channel? By subscribing, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything we do here at Cheeky Crypto. It is free, and you will stay well informed. So why not? And with that being said, we hope everyone has a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
Yeah, take care.